Welcome back to The Explainer. Man, we've got a truly massive week in AI to synthesize for you today. There is just so much noise out there right now, so we're going to cut right through it. We're connecting the dots between the absolute newest frontier models, the infrastructure powering autonomous agents, and honestly, the geopolitical strategies shaping this whole landscape. If you want to know what actually matters this week in AI, well, you're in exactly the right place.
But hey, before we get into the weeds, I want you to think about something. Is the real revolution right now in how these massive models are being trained, or is it fundamentally about who controls the building blocks? As we go through the news today, you're going to see this crazy tug of war between building bigger brains and building the digital worlds those brains actually operate in.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we're looking at the frontier model wars. Then, the rise of reliable agents. Third, China's OpenAI strategy. And finally, the evolving AI stack. Let's just jump right in.
Section 1. The Frontier Model Wars. Let's look at the brain of the ecosystem and the latest frontier developments really changing the game right now.
Okay, so the biggest shockwave this week definitely comes from Meta. They just dropped MuseSpark. This is a brand new, natively multimodal reasoning model. But here's the real kicker. They've completely abandoned their usual open-source llama approach for this flagship model. It's totally closed. No way, right? Meanwhile, in the other corner, we've got the May 2026 update for ChatGPT. It's got the absolute broadest feature set on the market. You can run Python in a sandbox, control your computer, the whole shebang. But ironically, OpenAI just officially discontinued Sora, their big flagship video model. So think about that. Meta's locking the doors on their best model, while OpenAI is actually shedding features to optimize. It is a fascinating pivot for both of them.
To really wrap your head around Meta's commitment to this new closed strategy, you just have to look at the price tag. $14.3 billion. That is the staggering amount they paid to acquire Scale AI, specifically bringing Alexander Wang in to lead their new Meta Super Intelligence Labs. And get this, they built MuseSpark from the ground up in just 9 months. Entirely new architecture, new data pipelines, everything. This level of investment tells us the frontier model war is way more expensive and honestly way more guarded than ever before. If you're building a business right now, relying on top-tier models means you're going to be tied to massive, closed ecosystems.
Moving on to Section 2, the rise of reliable agents. We're officially moving toward coworker-grade AI, because for models to do real work, they have to act independently.
And that brings us to literally the single biggest bottleneck in AI today. How do we make agents reliable? How do we actually trust these systems to operate autonomously without us holding their hands every single step of the way? Look, flashy demos are great for Twitter, but coworker-grade reliability, the kind you can confidently deploy in your actual business, that is an entirely different beast.
So the industry's answer to this, it's something called digital world models. Basically, think of these like incredibly complex video games or flight simulators, but built exclusively for AI. Instead of just training a model on flat text, companies are spinning up these simulated corporate environments. We're talking mock Slack messages, fake Jira tickets, simulated emails. It's a sandbox where agents can safely practice multi-step tasks before they are ever let loose in the real world. And let me tell you, the smart money is aggressively following this trend. Just this week, we saw 2 massive funding rounds purely dedicated to these post-training environments. Bespoke Labs scooped up $40 million to build out their data research and reinforcement learning environments. And Patronus AI? They raised $50 million for their Series B to build digital world models at scale. Combined, that is nearly $100 million betting that the environment an agent learns in is the absolute key to making it reliable.
And when these agents actually get to work, they are incredibly practical. Zapier just dropped some data on how everyday workplaces are deploying agents right now. And spoiler alert, they aren't writing poetry, they're doing the boring, heavy lifting that you and your team probably do every single day. Triaging support tickets, analyzing customer sentiment across different channels, monitoring CRMs for churn risk so human reps can step in to save the account. This right here is how AI actually starts saving you hours of busy work.
Here's the super concrete example from that Zapier data. It's a real-world content pipeline from JB Goodwin Realtors. Step 1, their agent scrapes regional housing news. Step 2, it summarizes all that data and drafts market copy. Step 3, it routes the final draft to a human for review. The agent effortlessly handles that messy, research-heavy middle layer of work. It saves the human team countless hours, but still ensures a real person is in the loop for final quality control. It's just a brilliant workflow.
All right, Section 3, China's OpenAI strategy. Let's shift away from the application layer and look at the global battlefield, specifically through a fascinating new report from the U.S. China Economic and Security Review Commission. What's truly wild here is how China has opted to go all in on an open source strategy. Remember how US companies like Meta are pivoting to closed models like MuseSpark? Well, Chinese labs are doing the exact opposite. They're openly publishing their model weights and charging just a fraction of the cost to use them. This is creating a massive global feedback loop. Widespread adoption of these dirt cheap models is driving incredibly rapid iteration and improvement across the board.
When you look at the current product category leaders between the US and China based on monthly active users, the picture is pretty clear. US proprietary models like GitHub Copilot and Sora are still holding those top spots, for sure. But Chinese open models like Baidu Comate and Klingai, they are aggressively closing the gap. This open ecosystem is letting them innovate incredibly close to the frontier, even though they're facing some serious compute constraints.
But the crucial takeaway for global strategy is that China's open AI approach mutually reinforces its industrial dominance. The report calls it an interlocking innovation flywheel. By pushing these open models straight into smart factories, logistics networks, and humanoid robotics, they are generating mountains of real-world physical data. This is embodied AI data because the models are actually operating inside physical machines, and that is specialized data that US models, which still rely heavily on scraping internet text, just can't easily replicate. Which brings us to Section 4, the evolving AI stack. This is where software meets physical reality. Let's look at how the fundamental AI stack is evolving to handle these crazy new capabilities.
We are right in the middle of a massive software shift. We're moving away from traditional RAG, retrieval-augmented generation, which, let's be honest, mostly just bolted a search bar onto a text model. Now, we are entering the era of context engines. These things have native multimodal processing. Take Google's Gemini 3, for example. It now boasts a massive 2 million token capacity. That means it can ingest and deeply understand an hour-long video natively, processing the vision, the audio, and the text, all at the exact same time. It's mind-blowing.
But here's the catch. As this software stack evolves, it ultimately crashes headfirst into physical reality. A newly published academic paper highlights what they're calling the energy paradox. As these context engines scale up, the physical limits of our infrastructure and our energy grids are becoming the ultimate bottleneck. This is especially true in critical manufacturing hubs like Taiwan. Their sovereign AI ambitions are literally competing with the physical limits of the island's power grid. So, we're moving from a world constrained by software to one constrained by actual physical circuits and electricity.
And as we build these massive closed models, spin up simulated corporate worlds, and push AI into physical factories right to the edge of our energy grid's limits, well, the Vatican just released a very timely encyclical letter focused entirely on AI. Pope Leo XIV writes about safeguarding the human person in the time of artificial intelligence. And honestly, it is a vital conversation to be having right now. In this relentless global pursuit of AI progress, where exactly do we draw the line to protect our own humanity? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.